Hi, everybody, and happy Friday. Welcome in to Gamecock Central. This is GC Live. I am Kendall Smith. He is Jack Veltri. We are so excited that you are joining us here today. We usually do this on Wednesdays, but today we are here on a Friday, and we are so glad to be joining all of you. We hope you've had a great week so far. College football in full swing right now with the college football playoff semifinals. Last night, a great game between Ole Miss and Miami. So, Jack, we got to start with that. What were your thoughts on yesterday's game? And did you pick Miami or Ole Miss to win in staff picks?
I picked Miami to win in staff picks, Kendall. I've been riding, the Miami. I honestly thought Miami has been rolling lately, and Ole Miss has been very good lately too. But there's just something about the team that gets into the playoff when some people think they're not supposed to, and they run the table and get hot, and that's a tough team to beat, Kendall. So
Yes.
Miami's going to the national championship, and that's. I don't think many people had that on their bingo card when the playoff began, but here we are.
No, a lot of people didn't. But hey, when you've got doubters like that, like you said, you're a little bit of an underdog that kind of, I think, makes it, I don't want to say easier, but the expectations obviously are not as high for a team like Miami going into the playoff, and they have been able to capitalize in every single way. So congratulations to them. It was a great game last night. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it as someone that didn't really have a team that I was rooting for too much over the other. I mean, my brother went to law school at Ole Miss, so for his sake, I probably wanted Ole Miss to win that game, but my big game is tonight between Indiana and Oregon. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But as we talk about the college football playoff, a lot of other things happening in the world of college football as well, including the transfer portal that is in full swing right now. And Jack, you and I haven't talked actually for a couple of weeks. So the last time we talked, Lenora Sellers had announced that he'd be coming back to South Carolina. We have since then heard a bunch of other guys are coming back next season, including Nick Harbert, including Dylan Stewart. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. But let's start with the portal. South Carolina had a big day yesterday, and it was funny because Wes and I were recording a recruiting rundown a few days ago. And I remember we're sitting there recording it. I am truly time stamping it as we were doing it. I'm like, okay, everybody, it's like 2:45, but when I post this, I guarantee you within a couple hours, someone will commit to South Carolina. Well, they did. Yesterday, 3 commitments for the Gamecocks, and South Carolina just continues to roll in the portal. So what have been your overall thoughts so far on how South Carolina has done with the transfer portal, Jack?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a slow start, Kendall. They only had Jaden Gibson from Oklahoma committed for the first few days, but in this week they've gotten 6 commitments, and they got 3 yesterday. We'll talk about those guys in a few minutes, and then they got the 3 from the other day. If you heard me on GC Live on Wednesday, broke down the previous 3 commitments, so I'm not going to really dive too much into those guys. If you want to watch back on that stream, it's on our YouTube channel, so you can go ahead and check it out after this one. But the 3 guys they got yesterday are very interesting. So far they've gotten a wide receiver, a defensive lineman, 2 offensive linemen, a kicker, a DB, and another offensive lineman. So the 3 yesterday they got Upton Belenfant from Texas Tech. He's a kicker. Quaysheed Scott, defensive back from Kentucky, and then Jacarius Peak, an offensive lineman from NC State. So far, I would say it's been a pretty good cycle for South Carolina. Now, they're not done yet. That's the big thing. They're certainly not done yet. If you go on over to Gamecock Central's transfer portal headquarters, you'll see they've had a ton of guys come on reported visits, and they're getting a good bit of these guys, but there's still a bunch that they need to figure out whether or not they're going to commit to South Carolina. And there's some pretty big names out there. So overall, I think January 9th, a week since the portal officially opened last week, I think you're in a good spot if you're the Gamecocks. You've gotten the beginnings of what you need in the portal. Like you're hammering out your big needs with offensive line, defensive line, DB, kicker is another one, wide receiver. But you need to go out there and probably get a few more guys at those specific spots. Besides kicker, you only need 1 kicker. But, offensive line, defensive line, you probably want a few more guys. So you feel pretty good about where things are at. And, we'll see where things are at next week when we're back on here talking about where things stand.
It is ever changing. And you were just talking about some of the position groups that South Carolina has been successful with so far in the portal. When we were talking a few weeks back, though, Jack, we talked a lot about the running back room and how South Carolina really needs to dial in there, especially throughout this portal period. So we have a question here, and let me find it. Do you have any word on this? Any thoughts on South Carolina, who they could pick up in terms of a running back maybe throughout this portal process, and kind of where they're at right now with things?
So there was one guy they were on that came in for a visit. His name's Nate Palmer. He previously played at TCU, so he has the Kendall Briles connection there, but ultimately he ended up committing to Wisconsin yesterday. So that's one guy you lost out on. Now, according to the reported visits list that Wes, Chris, guys like that on our staff have come up with, that is the only running back so far on a reported visit to South Carolina. So I think now you kind of probably do need to go a little bit more hardcore to, like, if I'm looking at top positions of need the rest of the portal cycle, Kendall, like, the offensive line, defensive line are definitely like the top of the list, but I would put running back right up there because that's the one position you have not gotten yet. And it's not like South Carolina is not trying to hammer that down and take care of it, but they definitely need to go out there and get not just one running back. Honestly, I would certainly say probably two because you have 3 scholarship running backs right now. It's not like Matthew Fuller and Jordan Howell can't carry the load in 2026. The thing is, they're 2 running backs, and you need more depth than that. So definitely got to go out here and not hit the panic button here. But you got to go out here and get running backs. It's as simple as that. And Greg Stoll with a interesting comment here. Justice Haynes, maybe I saw he entered the transfer portal today, or maybe it was yesterday. I think it was today. I saw the news that he entered the transfer portal from Michigan. If you go back to last year, he was a South Carolina transfer target. So before he ended up committing to Michigan. So they had him here on a visit. So it's like there's familiarity there. And I think maybe he wants to come back to the SEC. I don't know exactly, but seeing that South Carolina does have a need at running back, they really do have to address that here soon.
Yeah, I think a few weeks ago, Jack, you said that it's no question, or you used some like really urgent phrasing to describe what South Carolina needs in this portal process. And of course, running backs room needs a little bit of improvement here. So we'll see how they do. Now, as you mentioned, a week left with the portal. So my question to you, Jack, is over this next week, and I know you're saying so far you feel like South Carolina's done a pretty good job, but over this next week, what does a successful week for South Carolina look like outside of just getting guys to commit? Because we know that it needs to be specific position groups that get some love here. How do you look back on it in 2 weeks from now and say, okay, that was a good last week. We got done what we needed to get done?
It's a tough question to answer. I think, and look, just because the portal closes on the 16th, that just means that's when they need to enter the portal by. So they've had, all this time, 2 weeks here, when the 16th comes around to enter the portal. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think you could still sign with schools after the fact. It's just you got to be in the portal. So if you're South Carolina, you want to go get more offensive linemen and defensive linemen. I think you're actually probably in a decent spot right now from a D-line standpoint. Maybe add like a guy or two. I know they've got a few guys that they've been recruiting, but I think offensive line, you need to go get a few more guys. Running back, like I said, go get a guy or two. I think you're okay at wide. I think you're pretty good at wide receiver right now. Maybe Nitro Tuggle's a guy that, he has South Carolina in his final 3 with Vanderbilt and Auburn. So I'd say to get him, that should round it out from a wide receiver standpoint. Tight end, you probably do want to get someone. I think maybe they will end up landing one of these guys here, hopefully soon, you would imagine. But yeah, so to kind of round it out here, I know I'm all over the place. I'd say running back, more O-line, a tight end, and somebody off the edge too. I think those are like the main positions left are what I'm thinking. Like if South Carolina can round those groups out, I think you feel like you did everything you needed to do to have a successful portal cycle. That's just my opinion on it, though.
Well, as we mentioned, we have the transfer portal tracker, which is live right now over on GamecockCentral.com. So it gives you the rundown on who's committed to South Carolina, who is leaving South Carolina and entering the portal. And yeah, we have a ton of guys that are visiting right now, like nonstop. And a lot of those names are on the site too. So it's a busy time for South Carolina. And I'm curious, Jackie, this obviously is a great question for Wes and Chris, but you have the inside scoop. You know what's going on a day in, day out basis within the program. So when they're doing these visits, because there are so many guys that are coming through, and obviously for South Carolina and the coaching staff, you want to be able to give individualized attention to each of these guys and prove to them why they should come and be a Gamecock. But it's, a lot of guys, like I said, that are coming every day throughout this portal period. So what do you think these visits look like for these guys? Like, what do you think ultimately can make South Carolina stand out to these guys that are thinking about coming?
You want the blunt answer?
I want the blunt answer, and I know where you're going with this. I want the blunt answer, yes.
It's a 5-letter word. You need lots of it. It's called money. And look, let's be quite honest. The landscape of college football is far different now than ever before. Look, I promise you, all these guys committing to these schools are not, Wes brought up a funny point to me today when we were talking this morning after radio. Like these big guys that are committed to South Carolina, they're not worried. They're not concerned about, getting to go. They're not coming to South Carolina to go spend time at the Horseshoe. They're going to, take online classes and get paid $1 million or more to be at an SEC school that will help them get to the NFL. That is the reality of the situation here. And I think everyone's got money, right? Ohio State's got money. LSU's got money. Like all these big schools that South Carolina's going up against in recruiting all have money, possibly more than South Carolina. I think the other things you can probably feel like, okay, South Carolina's got this going for them is, look, they've got a good, stable quarterback situation with Lenore Sellers coming back. You've got Dylan Stewart off the edge. I know the Gamecocks are trying to recruit a guy like Chaz Coleman right now, who is the number one edge in the portal and one of the top players in the portal in general right now. And they're having to go up against schools like LSU, Ohio State, and Tennessee, who have all gotten him on visits. For South Carolina, they have Dylan Stewart on the other side. And they have Deion Barnes, who is his position coach for Coleman, that is, from Penn State. So I think it's not so much about the academics and the school. That's all nonsense compared to what these kids actually care about, which at the end of the day is how much money you're going to get paid. You don't have to like it, but that is truly just the way it is. Sometimes it is just the top bidder. And this is a good point brought up by Adam Ritter. You never know. Maybe they just know about the legend of Jack Veltri, and maybe that's why they commit to the Gamecocks. Yeah. If I ever hear that from a player like, you were part of the reason because I heard your questions. I'm like, oh God, like what? Go commit to a different school because that's ludicrous. Not that would ever happen.
Jack was getting his shine on social media though during the season this year. Everybody, let's not forget it. Everyone was loving Jack Veltri for asking some questions that a lot of people did not necessarily want to ask.
It's good exposure for Gamecock Central, which is all that matters.
He's a company guy.
Yes.
No problem. This is interesting here. Okay, so we know that things change all the time in college football. If a guy commits to South Carolina, Jack, throughout this transfer portal period, how quickly are they signing? / is there any fear that things could switch up at the last minute?
Well, I'll actually bring up a good example. The situation over at Washington right now, Kendall, has been kind of weird with Demond Williams Jr., who, from my understanding, he signed a deal to come back to Washington, and then he broke that deal wanting to enter the transfer portal. His agent cut him loose, cut ties with him, and now he's back at Washington. So, here's the thing. my thought is there's just no such thing as like what does a signature even mean anymore at this point when you can break all these binding agreements in a matter of minutes, right? Like you can commit to the school one day and then decide to go to another school. And it's not just Williams I'm talking like that. There have been other situations like this season and over the years where you just never know what's going to happen. Like you could have a guy committed to you and then he's like, oh, you know what, actually I changed my mind, I'm going to go to a different school. Like that's just kind of how it works. But I will say, looking at what South Carolina does have right now, it would seem that 5 of the 7 commitments currently have already signed. So you're looking at the only 2 that have not signed thus far are Jaden Gibson and Jacarius Peak. So we will see when those guys do officially sign. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the case is there, but yeah, I think not every situation you're gonna have to worry about like a guy like. Rarely, I feel like, does it happen where you get a situation like this with Williams at Washington or one of these other schools where a guy initially commits and then he's like a day later, you know what? Actually, I'm going back into the portal. I want to find a different school to be at. So, but I think overall, I think South Carolina doesn't have much to worry about here right now.
Well, before we continue any further, we want to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor of this show. It is the wonderful Clint Hammond, who has been such a great supporter of Gamecock Central over the years, Jack.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. If you've listened to me and Kendall or Chris and Wes talk for any amount of time now on GC Live, you've heard us talk about our guy Clint Hammond of CMG Home Loans with the Mortgage Gurus over there. If you are looking to buy a home, if you need help with your mortgage, any of those housing needs that can be quite complicated and tough for a first-time home buyer, go ahead and give a call to our guy Clint at 803-422-6797. The NMLS number for him is 71597, or go to clinthammond.com for more info. Clint will get you on the right track. He has been in the mortgage industry for over 20 years now. He's a lifelong Gamecock fan and a longtime supporter of everything we do here at Gamecock Central and on our GC Live programs. He's been the presenting sponsor of this show for as long as I can remember at this point, since you and I have been here, Kendall. So he's a great sponsor for us, and you should definitely check him out. Again, if you're watching live, all that information I just read off will be listed above us here. But once again, 803-422-6797. NMLS number for him is 71597, or go to clinthammond.com.
Feel free to hit us up with questions, everybody, in the comments. If you have any, we are happy to answer as many as we can. Today on the show, Jack, it is so interesting during this time because we are constantly hearing about South Carolina, right? And you kind of feel like you're within a bubble because you're hearing so much about what's going on with South Carolina in terms of the transfer portal, who is coming back next season. And you feel like South Carolina is doing a pretty good job so far. They're bringing a lot of key pieces from this past season back next year. So far, looking pretty good in the transfer portal. But it's hard because you're also comparing that to every other SEC team and every team really across the country that South Carolina could have the potential of playing next year. So when you look at it as a whole on the college football landscape, where do you feel like South Carolina is right now? And of course, you are not actively keeping up with every other team on the level that you are at South Carolina, but where do you feel like South Carolina is right now in comparison to other schools in the college football landscape that could be big competitors for South Carolina?
I think South Carolina's in a pretty good spot from a retention standpoint of the guys you're losing, aside from maybe like a guy here and a guy there. I think you're okay with losing. Like you're not losing sleep over the 7 offensive linemen who have entered the transfer portal, right? Maybe like Josiah Thompson or Tree or Tro, but like I think everyone's okay with losing like Boaz Stanley and some of these other guys on the offensive line. When you have a season where you get 43 sacks, I think you need an entire refurbishment on the O-line, and that's what we're currently seeing. Dre Jacobs was a tough loss, but he's a wide receiver. He's expendable, right? You can go out there and get another guy. Like if Nitro Tuggle commits to South Carolina, then that's like a guy that can easily fill that void. Not to mention South Carolina's speaking of retention, you're keeping a lot of these wide receivers. Like Mazio Bennett's coming back. Who would have thought that after the season that South Carolina had, where he just did absolutely nothing this year with 10 catches for 62 yards. But I think overall, they've done a good job of retaining the players they want. They've kept Lenoris, they've kept Dylan Stewart, and they've kept Nick Carter. That's really tough to do. And in this day and age where you get the NFL draft to worry about, you've got the transfer portal with teams that are probably poaching these players. South Carolina's done a good job, and it comes after a season that was so disappointing on so many levels. But I think Shane Beamer was right when he said, like, these players do believe in what they're doing, and we're seeing that through the guys that want to stay here. And now they're going out here and not just getting good players, they're getting top players. They, like, with Peak, he's the top number one offensive tackle in the transfer portal. That is a really good pickup. Like, the guy is going to – Wes was calling him like a franchise tackle this morning on radio. Like, that should speak volumes about what the Gamecocks are getting out of him. And to kind of answer the question here from Luis Martinez, and we have a comment here, is Pete going to start? Yes, absolutely. You don't bring a guy like that in to sit on the bench when he's probably getting paid 7 figures. When the portal cycle closes, do you think Peak ends up being the highest rated signee, or do you think we pick up any other higher rated players? If South Carolina got Chaz Coleman, that would I don't have the numbers on hand here, but that would probably be their highest rating signee, I would imagine. But as of right now, I think it's going to end up being Peak. But hey, still got a week and some change here to kind of figure out what you're getting all in the portal when this class is officially all signed. But yeah, I mean, look, they've done a great job at retention. They've brought in players that are going to make their program better from the transfer portal, and I don't think they're done yet. I don't.
And you're not concerned at all that Peak hasn't signed yet? I know he just.
No. I'd be more concerned.
But you're not worried about that.
No. They just got him last night. I'm not that worried about that yet. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I can't think of situations right now where South Carolina's had a guy locked up. Maybe I'm misremembering, but had a guy locked up, and then it's like, oh yeah, they just never end up signing. Like, I'd be more concerned about Gibson since he was the first guy to sign on January 3rd. So I don't know what the holdup is there, but it's all situations are different. So I'm not going to speculate too much on that. But overall, Kendall, to round out this answer here, they've done a good job of retention, bringing in talented players, and we'll see where they go from here.
Yeah, and that's not easy to do if you're South Carolina after the season that they just had. So credit to the staff for that, because I think a lot of people probably heard like, oh, guys are buying into the program. They're invested in what we're doing here. They believe in what we're doing here. And you hear that, and then you look at the record and you're like, yeah, but like, how invested can you really be, especially after you just had the season that you had, and then you have this new era of college football where you can essentially go anywhere if you're good and get paid a lot of money to do that. But I do give a lot of credit for the culture that's obviously been built at South Carolina to have that belief from the players and then ultimately have them stay. That's not easy to do, especially, like I said, after a season like South Carolina just had.
Can we just hit
talk about Josiah Thompson?
Let's hit this for a second, because I'm going to be quite honest, Kendall. I don't know where, and maybe I'm just not seeing this. Maybe I'm oblivious to this, but where are we all getting this idea from that Josiah Thompson has not hit the transfer portal? Number one, he put out an entire statement literally saying that he's going to be entering the transfer portal. If you go on to On3's player profile, it has him listed as entering the transfer portal on January 3rd. So I don't know where this is coming from, that he is not, like, he hasn't like officially hit the portal yet. Like, I've seen multiple people talking about that, and I'm kind of just like, until it comes from one of us at Gamecock Central or otherwise, like, he's hit the portal. Like, we've wrote the story about it. So I don't know. I mean, it literally, like, I don't know what to tell you guys. It literally says on, it literally says he entered the transfer portal on January 3rd. Because when you go onto these databases and you're looking at player profiles and stuff, usually it says status and it says underneath that transfer. So again, I'm just going based off of that. I don't know what's going on these other outlets or whatever. I don't follow with these other ones, but keeping up with Gamecock Central, it seems like right now he's in the transfer portal from the literal information that is out there. Again, he did put a statement out there that he entered the transfer portal. So unless it comes from him, I'm just not sure what where all this is coming from here.
All right. Well, there you have it.
Just to clarify, because I think we needed to address.
Yeah, no. I've seen it on. I have seen it on X of like there being.
It's just weird, Kendall.
I don't want to say tweets, but like tweets out there that have people saying Josiah Thompson is not in the transfer portal. So there has been a lot of back and forth.
Yeah. Again, just going off the facts, like his name is in the portal. Like it's in the On3 database. He literally made a post about himself that he's entering the portal. I don't know. So.
Well, Jack, there are some big names that are coming back to play for South Carolina next season. We have not spoken since Nick Harbor and Dylan Stewart announced that they would be coming back. We obviously know how big those two will be next year for South Carolina. Were you surprised at all by these two saying, hey, we're coming back for another season in Columbia with the Gamecocks?
Not really. I think, again, South Carolina, they're in a spot where it's like, if you're getting your big three back, I think you're feeling pretty good about that. And then everyone else who follows after that, like, again, this is a program that it's not in a great spot after last season. But here's the good thing. And I think I mentioned this on radio today, Kendall. Like, say what you want about the job that Shane Beamer did this year. I don't think he did a great job this season at all. Hence why South Carolina went 4-8. But everything after that, since the offseason began, after the Clemson game, I think they've done a great job. They've retained all the players that they've felt like are wanting to come back. Some guys are going to want to leave, but the big names like Stewart, Sellers, Harbor did a great job with that. They signed, I believe, pretty much their entire 2026 signing class. They flipped Julian Walker from Michigan. They fended off Lane Kiffin from getting Landon Duckworth. The 4-star quarterback that signed with South Carolina who's on campus now. And in the transfer portal, they're going out here and getting really good players. So overall, if I had to give this offseason like a grade, like honestly, probably like an A+ right now. They have done really good job so far. So
A+. That is crazy coming from you. I'll be like, Jack, South Carolina won 8 games in a row. How do you feel like the stretch of games has gone? I'll be like, C-.
Yes, but like, here's the thing. Like, what is South Carolina really like? And even with the coaches, like, yes, they've lost a few. Like, they lost Sterling Lucas, but guess what? They went out there and brought in Deion Barnes, who arguably is just as good as Sterling Lucas. So I think overall, I can't look at many things and feel like, yeah, South Carolina has failed tremendously here. Like, they've
done well.
They've done really well. Now that grade could change over the next few weeks, but they're doing really good job. And like this comment here says, they have to keep it up.
Yes, they do. And I know we just talked about the money side of things. That's obvious to anybody that is remotely interested in college sports, in college football nowadays. We know that money is the driver at this point in the game. However, like I was saying earlier, these players that are talented, that are good, can leave. They could go somewhere else. They can make just as much money, if not more. They can go play for a program that's better. They can go play for a program that had a better season last year, that might have more buzz around them. There's a million different places and reasons why people could leave and why they could go. So why do you think, outside of money, because we know that, why do you think these players decide to stay? Like, ultimately?
It's a good question. There's a lot of I don't know exactly what goes on inside the head of these players besides because money is obviously it's everything, right? But I think
I don't know. It's a lot, but I don't know if it's everything. Like, I don't know if you can say it is. It's important, obviously, to everybody.
Yeah.
Have that side of things now in college football. But I think that there is something about South Carolina and there's something that's going on and there's a belief that they have, like Shane Beamer was talking about, that ultimately has made them want to stay. So yes, of course, the money, but then there's got to be other factors because you can get the money anywhere if you're good. You can go get the money at LSU and play for Lane Kiffin.
Good point. I think every situation's different. Like, for instance, I'll mention Dylan Stewart as the example here. So he's obviously going to get paid very well to come back to South Carolina. That's clearly obvious, right? Like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that. What I will say is, it says a lot about him to stay at South Carolina despite his position coach leaving for another SEC school when he easily could have left to follow him. Like, I think every South Carolina fan was hitting like the panic button as hard as they could, feeling like, oh my God, Dylan Stewart is going to LSU. What on earth are we going to do? It's over. And then a few days later, he ends up signing with South Carolina. I think that just goes to show that he's got a good thing at South Carolina. And this is more so this is like for all players. Every situation's different, but I think for like a guy like Dylan, why leave a good situation at South Carolina and upend everything for 1 year at LSU when you could be the guy at South Carolina, right? And that's the other thing that South Carolina can pitch is that the players that they're bringing back and the guys that are coming in, they have a chance to not just be another number or another 5-star at this school. Like, they can be the guy at South Carolina. And for a guy like Dylan, he is very much on track to go to the NFL. Spend another year at South Carolina, and he should be in good shape to be a really high draft pick. So I just think it's more so like if he likes South Carolina, if he likes being here, why upend everything just to go follow your position coach? But that's only one guy. There's just different situations for everybody. But people like South Carolina. It's as simple as that. There's a reason why Nick Harbor decided to commit here. There's a reason why Lenore Sellers has wanted to stay here. Like, it's beyond just development too. Like, don't get me wrong, that's part of it. Like, you can get pretty good development at South Carolina, but yeah, people like being here at South Carolina, it would seem.
Listen, I get it. I love South Carolina. I think it's great. I think everybody should go to South Carolina. It's an awesome school. It's in a great place. The fans are amazing. And yeah, I mean, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And I think it speaks to the program. It speaks to the coaches. It speaks to the fans. So credit to the fans that have stuck with the team. I know that I'm around the fan base a lot, but really, like, I don't know many other fan bases that are as devoted through thick and thin to their team than South Carolina fans. And I think that was, impressive from a lot of people this past year, a lot of fans that still stuck with it even till the end. So I think that a lot of that plays into it. It's just the full experience, right? And that has to do with, of course, the money side of things and the development side of things and playing time and playing in the SEC, but also playing at Williams-Brice, which is a great place to play, and being with a great coaching staff and having a good leader like Shane Beamer and great position coaches and great coordinators and great fans. So I think all of that to say, like, South Carolina, it seems, is doing everything right at this current point in time to get themselves in a better position for 2026. And that's exactly what Shane Beamer said at the end of the year. He pretty much guaranteed he wants his team to be in the college football playoff next season. And I know that seemed like a lot. And obviously, we don't know what the team will be like come season. We don't know how they'll look on the field, and we don't know what it's going to be like for a lot of other teams too. But Jack, the more that you're seeing things start to progress here in the offseason, are you feeling maybe even a little bit more confident about that? I don't know. We talked about the playoff might be a lot, but we feel like South Carolina could definitely have a much better season next year.
Yeah, as of right now, like, again, going back to what we said earlier, like, there are a lot of things that South Carolina's done really well so far this offseason. If there's such a thing as winning the offseason, you're right, Kendall. You mentioned earlier, like, I don't know what every other school is doing. I don't follow like every other school as closely as I do with South Carolina, but I can tell you from South Carolina's standpoint, yeah, I think they feel like they've done a great job so far, and you get that sense just seeing everything they've done here with the portal and the high school signing class and coaching moves. Like, this has been a very good offseason. Now, will it lead to a college football playoff berth next season? That remains to be seen because it's just hard to forecast what that's going to look like because every other team made changes this offseason too. That's why it's so tough to do the preseason polls and rankings with the AP poll and whatnot because it's like, those things change constantly. Not a team is what they are this year doesn't mean they're going to be the exact same next year. It's a year by year thing now. And for South Carolina, I can't not necessarily say that they're going to be a college football playoff team. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what they're going to be. But one thing I do know is they will be better next year. They have no choice but to be. And I think at the bare minimum, like I expect it's January 9th right now. When it comes time to figure out where South Carolina is going, they will be going to a bowl game is what I'm trying to get at. Like that's my take. Like they should be in a bowl game next season, and if anything, they maybe will have some luck and get to the playoff.
Jack and I have had a lot of conversations on what success ultimately looks like for South Carolina next year, what Shane Beamer needs to do next year to secure his job as the head coach. And I'm curious to hear all of your thoughts as well. It's kind of different for everybody, and we've heard different thoughts throughout us having that conversation on the show. There we have one right there. So we're saying 8 wins. Some people are saying the playoffs. Some people are saying just get to a bowl game. Like there's completely different expectations for what success looks like for South Carolina next year. We'll be able to gauge that a little bit better too once we get through this entire process and then have a better idea of what the team will look like. And obviously get a look at what other teams will look like that are on South Carolina's schedule. Yeah, it is so hard to know how good your team is going to be, especially with the portal and just the way that things change so quickly. So that's what's made this time in college football so fun for all of us is we're trying to keep up with it. I feel like a hamster on a wheel, Jack. I don't know if you feel that way too.
I agree. I do. I feel the same way here. It's just, here's the thing. Nobody knows what South Carolina is going to really be next year. And you hope for their sake they got to be better. And look, if Adam's right here, like make a bowl or lose your job. Like if South Carolina
6-win season enough, like, and we've talked about this before. Like, is that enough?
I don't think it is. I think if you're doing the bare minimum, I
think you win 7 games. That's my number. That is my personal number.
My thing is, yes, I agree. I think 7 or 8 wins. If Shane didn't outwardly say multiple times that. Like he's got to say it though, right? He's got to say that like this team is capable of getting back to the college football playoff picture and being in that mix. If he didn't say that, I think, yeah, definitely like a bowl game probably saves his job for the next year because maybe that's what they expect. But they expect to do bigger things than that. So, yeah, I think you have to be in the mix for the college football playoff, especially with some of the guys you're getting here. And you have your star quarterback, star edge rusher, star defensive player, mind you, and top wide receiver all coming back. How often can you say that for not just South Carolina, but any team that they get all of those guys back next year with how much fluid movement there is in the portal and guys leaving left and right for other schools and other opportunities? Like not every school is like that like right now with South Carolina. So look, they gotta find a way to get, on the upper echelon of 8 to 9 wins would be really good. If you go 7, 8 wins, that's fine. But I think 6 wins is just not enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we can't be using the excuse. And I'm not saying like we in terms of anyone specifically, because Jack and I talk about this sometimes too. We just cannot be using the tough schedule excuse anymore. Like at this point, it is what it is. Like South Carolina plays in the SEC. All the other SEC teams have to play SEC teams that are hard. So yeah, South Carolina has a really hard schedule, one of the hardest schedules in the country. But at the end of the day, we're not going to be using that as an excuse for next year at all. I feel like sometimes this year we would say that, oh, it's a tough schedule. It's a tough game. They've got 3 really hard games in a row or whatever. Yeah, that's too bad, but that's just how it was drawn up and that's what you were dealt. So you got to try to play your hand and deal with it as much as you possibly can, Jack.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what the next week or so looks like for South Carolina as they try to really solidify this portal class. But look, so far, everything's gone well so far. And you really hope you can kind of stick the landing here, I think is
replicate what South Carolina did 2 seasons ago with the transfer portal when they really picked up a lot of guys that made massive impacts on the team. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get into a little bit of tonight. This is a great segue. I think, Jack, you picked Oregon, didn't you?
No, I picked Indiana.
But Mike picked Oregon. Someone clicked reply all on our email.
Yeah, somebody. I don't know who picked Oregon, honestly. I wrote it down and I just put it away. That was it. I can look it up real quick. I know you picked Indiana and Ole Miss, correct?
Yes. Yes, I did.
It's tough.
I mean, I do not care about anything except for Indiana winning. Like, honestly. Like, the Ole Miss Miami game, like, it is what it is. I mean, the Pete Golding story was cool. So I would have liked to have seen that continue. And, you know, just the whole situation with Lane Kiffin. We've talked about it a million times. But I like that story with Ole Miss. I thought it was cool. But the Miami story is kind of cool, too. You know, some people didn't even think they should make it into the college football playoff. And here they are. So that's great. But the rematch tonight between Indiana and Oregon, my one thing for Indiana that concerns me is obviously it is very hard to beat a good team twice in a season. So that is definitely a fear, I think, for Indiana fans. My parents are actually at the Peach Bowl, so shout out to Scott.
Oh, let's go.
They enjoy it. They're Indiana grads. So they're there in Atlanta and they're ready for it. But I don't know. I mean, two extremely talented quarterbacks, two great coaches. I love Kurt Cignetti. I think he's awesome.
Yeah, I'm picking Indiana to win. By the way, Yuva and Wes were the only ones to pick Oregon this week. So, I know.
Wes, I don't know. I kind of want you to go against Indiana because you went Alabama.
Wes is. I forgot to tell you, Wes went 2-8 last week in staff picks. So he sold.
I don't even know what I did. I just like
you are actually doing pretty well. You're one game behind Wes. You're 115-63.
Where does that put me on the overall list?
You're like in third. So
okay, I can take third. If I'm a medalist, that's okay. I would
you'll be standing at the podium as of right now.
The bronze medal position. Come on, Fernando.
Yeah.
Got this. If Indiana wins, will I go to the title game? It's a conversation right now.
It's in Miami, right? So
if Ole Miss was playing Indiana, the answer would have probably been definitely yes. Of course, I would have felt like horrible. I'm like, okay, brother went to Ole Miss, parents went to Indiana. I went to South Carolina. We did not go to a bowl game this year, but it's okay because we are on the up and up. But yeah, if Indiana makes it, maybe. I'm going on a big trip in February to the Olympics. So there's a lot going on.
Right.
So that's my one thing. But we'll see, guys. Everybody here knows, you know, South Carolina comes first for me, but I grew up on Indiana and I almost went there. So if I would have went there, I would have never been on Gamecock Central, and everything works out for a reason because I get to spend all this great time with all of you in South Carolina is the best. And I love getting to talk Gamecock football and all things South Carolina. By the way, I know we keep saying that we will talk more about the other sports, and I promise we will. It's just been a lot going on in the world of football. So we will get into more basketball. We will get into more baseball. Baseball starts next month. Jack, that is
crazy. It's crazy. It's I'm ready for it. But men's basketball picked up a nice basketball had a nice win the other night. So we did talk about that on GC Live on Wednesday. We can't forget about those guys. But yeah, and Adam, I am hoping for a Bills win on Sunday against the Jaguars, or if they lose, get a lot of change, hopefully. So we'll see.
Well, I think for the Panthers, I'm steps away from Bank of America Stadium right now. I will not be in attendance at the Panthers game tomorrow because I have a hockey game. But the Panthers are just happy to be there, you know?
Yeah. They backdoored their way in. So
the Panthers made it because of the Falcons. Thank you to the Falcons. And they're happy to be there. I don't expect the Panthers to win, but if they do, that's just like cherry on top. And shout out to them because nobody thought that the Panthers would be good this year. Maybe they thought they'd be a little better, but the Panthers have always, well, I don't want to say always, but have struggled a lot as of late. So it's good to see them back and doing a little bit better. We need some winning ways from them here in the city of Charlotte. But Jack, I wish the best of luck to your Bills.
We'll see.
Your Islanders are rolling a little bit. What, 9-0 over New Jersey the other day?
Oh my God, that was crazy. They lost last night, but yeah.
What happened? That was crazy.
A lot of goals. A lot of goals. Have you ever seen 9 goals scored on 24 shots?
7.
That's what they did.
7 goals is the most I've ever seen in a game. So
Crazy.
9 goals is pretty impressive. But anyways, now we're just getting to the end of the show where we talk about every sport out there, which probably means that it's time for us to go. So have an amazing weekend, everybody. Yeah, Yankees are coming back soon, so we'll be able to talk all that with Jack.
Rolling my eyes because they haven't made like any moves this offseason. I don't want to talk about them until we have to. So, but
yeah, there's a lot happening. But enjoy the game tonight, everybody that is watching. Oregon, Indiana, the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, Georgia, for a trip to the national championship. I don't want college football to be over. That's going to be sad, but at least we'll be closer to South Carolina's season starting. So thanks, everybody, for joining us here. This has been GC Live here on Gamecock Central. Reminder, go over to GamecockCentral.com. Check out our transfer portal tracker for the latest on the portal. We've got a ton of other stories over there as well, so be sure to check it out. Have an awesome rest of your weekend. Thanks so much, everybody. For Jack Veltri, I'm Kendall Smith. This is GC Live here on Gamecock Central, and we will see you soon.